Welcome back to Ring of Fire. I'm Mike Papantonio. The Koch brothers have mastered the art of the bounce concept. They launch a small idea by way of a fake website, and that talking point then climbs the ladder through the conservative echo chamber. They use this to spread lies and to launch personal attacks against journalists. Joining me now to talk about this are attorneys Howard Nations and David Hirsch. David Hirsch, it seems to me that if you really watched what Daddy Koch did before as he was building his Koch enterprises and building his Koch empire, he kept his mouth shut. He understood that it wasn't a very wise move to move into the public debate and put himself out in front of a camera. He built the John Birch Society. He struck deals with Joseph Stalin and made tons and millions of money doing that. But these young Koch brothers, I say the young, these billionaire inheritance babies who got everything from Daddy. Daddy gave them everything that they own. They don't seem to understand that. They're moving in to the public debate, aren't they? And they're targeting journalists. Tell us one of the stories that comes to your mind about what they've been up to lately.
You know, Mike, you're exactly right about that. And in fact, I would say rather than simply coming to the debate, what they've decided is that there is a strategic tool that the Koch brothers are using in the propaganda war, attempting to move public opinion. And they have become very aggressive. For example, David Sassoon is a very, very well-respected journalist, a highly credentialed professional journalist, who has a climate news reporting media. And he oftentimes, as a professional journalist, takes positions which are accurate and true, which are contrary to Koch brother interests. And they've been very aggressive with him, attacking him personally, attacking his credibility, arranging for a number of publications to print information and to broadcast information that indicates that he's untruthful, that he's a liar, that he's biased, that he's not a professional journalist, and attempting
David, they've tried to get him fired, haven't they? I mean, they've tried to get him fired from his job. They've actually had people target him by saying, here's where you can find him, here's his email, here's his address, here's his telephone number. Now all of you flying monkeys out there, the Koch brother minions that control these fringe kind of conservative sites on the internet, they have them going after Sassoon. That's part of the methodology.
It's absolutely part of the methodology. And Sassoon, as I said, is a serious journalist. He's not some blogger with an internet connection. He's a real journalist. They've gone so far as to go to Reuters and suggest to Reuters that even though he's a Pulitzer Prize-winning author who's provided good reporting for over 25 years, that he is someone who should be taken off the Reuters broadcast string, and because he's untruthful, slandering him, libeling him, attempting to destroy the business that he's engaged his life in as a professional journalist. It's outrageous. It's really propaganda. It's not part of the reason.
Howard Nations, let me go to you. Sassoon is not the only example of what we call the bounce attack. And of course, the bounce attack takes place by putting your story with some bottom feeder site like Tucker Carlson, for example. You put out a story on Tucker Carlson's site, Tucker Carlson tries to add legitimacy to it, and then before you know it, some brain-dead mainstream or corporate journalist picks the story up as if it's a real story, puts it out there as if it's real news without even asking the question, where did it come from? How did it come from these vile characters, these disgusting characters called the Koch brothers? Why did these disgusting characters attack this journalist? What is the truth behind the story? You bounce it by beginning with the real bottom feeders, and then the brain-dead journalist gets involved. The brain-dead journalist who is too lazy to do their work picks the story up as if it's a story. Give us another example that might come to your mind of what you've seen.
Well, in 2011, New Yorker magazine outstanding reporter Jane Mayer wrote an article called Covert Operations about how the Koch brothers are funding think tanks and a lot of their secretive operations. The Kochs were extremely offended by this. It was an outstanding article to such an extent that it was nominated for the 2011 finalist, actually, for the National Magazine Award. The Koch brothers were so outraged by this story that they went on their website, which is called Koch, which is the greatest oxymoron since Fox News. And they denounced this, they denounced her, they lobbied, they even went to the point of lobbying against her receiving the National Magazine Award. They contacted the American Society of Magazine Editors and gave them all sorts of reasons, which they published on their website, that they made up about why she should not receive the award. Then they, more recently, they took the neocon approach of a preemptive strike, and they came out with an article about her on Koch Facts, complaining about an article that she had not yet published. And they said they said on their website, we don't really know the contents of this, however, let's publish it, let's take it on anyway. And then what you're talking about with Tucker Carlson, that type of thing, they circulated a rumor when they couldn't kill the story. They circulated a rumor that in covert operations she had been guilty of plagiarism. That went absolutely nowhere. It's totally unfounded. It's never been supported. But those are tactics.
Yeah, David, let me go to you on something. There is some good news here, and that is too often when you live in a glass house and start throwing rocks, the glass house has potential to shatter. Sheldon Adelson, for example, learned that. I mean, he's a billionaire, multi-billionaire. He's kept quiet for a long time, and all of a sudden, well, he's done his dirty work. Let me put it like this. He's done his dirty work quietly. Now he's doing his dirty work out in the open. Isn't there a risk when you have a rapid response team like we've seen built here by the Koch brothers, and that is to control the message, control the media message by bouncing it from the very lowest point to the very highest point? Isn't there a risk that you become a victim in that? Can't we hope that?
Absolutely, and you know, that's the risk that they come with a more high-profile approach, which is that the more they engage the media, the more opportunity we have for balanced reporting, which will tell the truth about what's going on with the Koch brothers, will reveal what they've done, will show the truth about the activities they're engaged in and how they're generating their profits. And so I think that is a high risk, and they hope a high reward, but we're hopeful that that risk will pay off, and they'll be shown for being simply propagandists, which is what they are. Not trying to engage in reason-given discourse, but really engaging in a propaganda process whereby they attempt to poison the well, they attempt to make the statements that will be inflammatory and hope they'll be believed because they're said often enough.
Well, Howard, here's what I see from this. The American university, because of the big mouth, braggadocious, scorched earth kind of policy that the Koch brothers have towards politics, the American university did a study where they followed them for 2 years. In other words, they figured out, where are these people putting their money? You, as a matter of fact, have reported on this show a couple of times where you've talked about them putting their money into the university system. But what ends up happening when they become so public is we learn. For example, I have a list here from 1999 to 2003. Koch Industries paid $400 million in fines and penalties and judgment for things that are for environmental regulation problems, for price fixing, for a whole host of ugly, ugly things. As a matter of fact, 5 criminal convictions resulted out of some of that in 1999. And so the more we learn about the Kochs, the more it's easier for us to dislike them. And American University is helping us with that, with the study that they did, aren't they?
They really are, and it's an excellent piece of work. The Koch brothers were pretty much under the radar through the 90s, but they had a tough decade in the 90s. From 90 to 93, they put $19 million into the Cato Institute and into these far right-wing organizations, think tanks, if you will, such as this. What they tried to do, for example, is Bob Dole had a bill that he was pushing through the Senate. They tried to get a special bill added, a special amendment added, which would eliminate a $54 million lawsuit against them because of 300 oil spills that their companies had been guilty of. The bill died, but in the process, they ended up having to pay $30 million to the United States government and to the state of Texas. But the idea that you can just go in and get a special amendment to a bill added to wipe out a $54 million lawsuit against you is scary.
Well, that's their arrogance, isn't it? And Howard, isn't it the same kind of arrogance we saw when PBS did an incredible piece that was an expose about how disgusting these two brothers are, how disgusting their conduct is. I mean, you can still find the film is still out there. Greenwald did the film; it's still out there. But they actually pressured PBS into killing the film. Isn't it that kind of influence that is the most troublesome to you? It is to me. What's your reaction to it?
Well, here's the scary part of it. Koch brothers has 60,000 employees. They have $115 billion annual income, of which it's estimated that it's $11.5 billion profit per year. These guys have got $1 billion a month to play with, and they're spending their money. They're just behind Gates and Buffett. The Kochs are third in terms of wealth. And what they've done with their money, starting in 1999, as of 99, as you said, they'd had 5 criminal convictions. They rigged prices with competitors. They lied to regulators. They had numerous environmental violations. Finally, in 99, a whistleblower named Philip Dubose came forward and talked about how he had been taught to steal and cheat in measuring crude oil that they were taking off of federal lands by using what they call the Koch method. I mean, seriously.
Their own method of thievery.
A crooked method had their name on it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that type of thing is scary.
Let me go to David. David, these are the guys that are ready. They're ready in about 30 seconds or so. They're ready to buy up newspapers now so they can now use their ugly message through mainstream newspapers. Tell me in about 30 seconds what's your take on that.
You know, the Koch brothers have indicated an interest in buying the Tribune Company newspapers, and I think that clearly they're trying to do it to advance their political and their personal agenda, as well as their business agenda. And they've made very few bones about that. And if they have influence in major markets with the Tribune Company newspapers, they will have a ready-made platform to spout their propaganda and cloak it in respectability, when in fact they're trying to advance their own business interests.
There certainly is no respectability. Howard, David, thank you for joining me. This is a great story. As I say, when you live in a glass house, things have a tendency to shatter, don't they? Thank you for joining me.
Thanks, you, Mike.